Hey guys, welcome back. Orbomb here, bringing you guys a video that a lot of you guys wanted. So I didn't really know that you guys like when I do more discussion videos, but like I got a comment. Let me actually pull this up. I think I have it right here in a different tab, but I got a comment on that post I made a while ago, and I was just checking up on it. Colton Floyd, shout out to you, big dog. He was asking me to talk about what I think, essentially what I want to tell you guys what post rotation is gonna kind of look like as far as essential trainers and like staples, quote unquote, cards go. So today's video is going to be me expanding on the idea, going over what I think post-rotation cards are going to look like, and what will define what makes decks good versus what makes decks bad, as far as cards that were good that are no longer good, things like that. So it's going to be a general free-form discussion. Feel free to have this on a separate tab because we're not going to be playing games. It's going to be me just talking about cards. So if you guys like this kind of content and want to see more content like it, where I talk about post-rotation stuff and talk about like deck ideas and whatnot, drop a like. This is definitely a more experimental video for me, so it's not probably gonna get as many views, but I would appreciate it if you guys dropped a like to let me know if you guys like it. If you do, I can do more videos similar to this vein, or more discussion freeform videos. So let's go ahead and talk about it. I have quite a long list of cards here. Not all of these cards are good. Actually, I think I have majority of these cards are good, but not all of them, right? So I'm gonna actually start out with the elephant in the room for me, and this is gonna make you either hate this video or love this video. I am not the biggest fan of Jirachi post rotation. I think since this card is pretty unsearchable for the most part, like the only way to search for Jirachi post rotation is going to be through fan club, and that's another thing I'm going to tell you guys right now. I don't like fan club post rotation. I'm just going to get that all out of the way, so if you guys hate this video, goodbye. But but I think Jirachi is a great card, and I think if you want to play it as a 4 of in some decks that you want to have a Jirachi engine in, you're more than welcome to. I think a 4 of option for Jirachi can work, but I think you're gonna be like kind of stuck with playing a 4 of Jirachi. My reasoning is I'm doing a lot of currently, for the past actually week, I've been doing a lot of post-rotation testing, recording videos, getting a bunch of videos stockpiled for you guys, so whenever it's time for me to upload them, I can just start mass uploading them and stuff like that. And what I've found is that it's really hard to find Pokemon in general. You're very limited on your search, and you're more limited on your deck thinning, so it's harder to just draw into combo cards that you need. And Jirachi is essentially a card that makes combo decks work. But if you can't find the card that makes combo decks work, then you're going to be behind by quite a bit. So since we no longer have Nest Ball or Ultra Ball, we don't have any ball search for non-GX Pokemon. We have supporter search in the likes of Fan Club and Elm, but unfortunately Jirachi is just 10 HP above Elm's range, and if Jirachi was 60 HP, I say this card is great because I think Elm is fine. I just think Fan Club is not as good. The reason why, we'll talk about Fan Club in a second, but because this card's unsearchable, you have to play a high count of it, so you have a high chance of finding it while shuffle drawing or leading with it or something like that. And if you're playing 4 of Jirachis, that's 4 deck slots that are not anything else. So in my opinion, I'm not the biggest fan of Jirachi. Plus, I think there's a lot of cards in post-rotation. Like, post-rotation isn't going to be nearly as bad as people think it is. I think there's a lot of cards in post-rotation that can really help you. It can help you find stuff that you're not going to need Jirachi as much, because when you play Jirachi, you also have to play switches and escape boards, because we no longer have Guzma and we no longer have escape rope. So actually your switching options for Jirachi are a lot more limited as well. Sure, you can probably find a skateboard, but then you have to play higher counts of a skateboard and switch, and then all of a sudden that becomes a problem because your deck slot that usually only took like what, 2 escape boards, 2 Jirachis, maybe a switch, like 5 deck spots, all of a sudden has to explode into like 4 Jirachis, a bunch of escape boards, a bunch of switches. That's like what, 12 deck spots, 9, 10, 11 deck spots. That's a lot of deck spots just to get a Jirachi engine rolling. So just right off the bat, I'm not a big fan of Jirachi. I'm going to remove Jirachi from the list. And other cards I'm not a big fan of, Fan Club. My reasoning why I'm not a big fan of Fan Club is because Fan Club can get you any 2 basics, sure, but the problem is that it doesn't draw you cards. Like, the only thing it does is give you more basics, which is kind of problematic because that means you have to find another draw supporter for the following turn, and you actually have to have a pretty good hand if all you're gonna do that turn is just get 2 basics. You know how people stopped using Elm? Because like, you know how people were using Zoark decks, and they were playing a 4 elms, like a bunch of elms to get their Zoras down early game, but eventually that evolved into a Lily Ball engine. That's because when you played a Lily Ball engine, you had the option to find multiple Pokemon as well as draw cards. So that was Elm was like one tournament, and then ever since then, Lily Ball. The reason why it's good is because you want to find multiple cards for following turns. You want to find your energy, you want to find your evolution pieces, you want to find all your combo pieces. Fan Club doesn't do that. Now, we do have access to Dedenne, and when you play Fan Club, you can get 1 basic plus 1 Dedenne, or maybe you play Cherish Ball and you can get 2 basics, 1 Dedenne. I'm not saying the Fan Club is bad. I think you should still have them, but there's a lot of decks out there that are good because of the trainers that are in this list, right? And there's a lot of decks that are bad because they don't have as many good trainers for them. And this is why I think Fan Club is kind of irrelevant, because we have other decks that are just going to succeed more that don't have to play Fan Club turn 1, and that's pretty big when you're not forced to play Fan Club. It doesn't thin it thins your deck by finding 2 basics, but it doesn't thin your hand. It doesn't draw you more cards. It doesn't do much here. So that's why Fan Club I'm not the biggest fan of as well. No pun intended, actually, at all. No pun intended, because that was really weird. Other than that, I'm going to talk about other general things because I'm trying to thin this down. Order Pad, I'm going to just keep Order Pad up here. I'm going to remove it in a second, but Order Pad, you guys know how much I love Order Pad. Love of my life. I don't think it's a great card. It's never been like the best card ever, but if you're looking for a card that you can simply play and have a chance to search for stuff, it's an option there for you. But I'm going to remove it because I don't think it's the best card in the world. And one other thing I'm going to talk about are tools in general. I put up Fairy Charm ability here as like a staple for all Fairy Charms, and probably one of the more dangerous tools out there. Gardevoir Sylveon, without access to Field Blower, Gardevoir Sylveon can auto win a lot of matchups because of having these charms to them. You know what I mean? Like, it's so easy for like Gardevoir Sylveon to win games if they have a Fairy Charm for the right type at the right time, and because of green, because of Adventure Back, because of like all sorts of things. Like, Gardevoir Sylveon does not lose a lot here. It loses healing for sure, but we have other healing options, not as good but still options. And then you could always switch. We have Tag Switch, which is a card I did not put up on the screen. I might have to try to do that real quick, but I guess while I'm talking, I'll talk about it. So abilities, this also goes the same for Whimsicott. It's actually probably even more dangerous in Whimsicott. Is Tag Switch not in this thing? Let's see. Wow, they didn't even have it. Wow, good job, Bulbapedia. So Tag Switch should be a card. I guess they just did not have it here for some reason. Interesting. Well, there should be more then. I'm confused. Dude, this is dumb. I'm gonna pull up my phone real quick, guys, just to make sure I'm not forgetting any other essential trainers. But I have a list here that I'll be pulling up near the end of this video that talk about the new cards and what's coming out. Tag Switch is one of them. I just didn't have it saved, which makes me worry because Bulbapedia isn't as reliable as, let's say, Pokebeach or Limitless. Shout out to Pokebeach and Limitless. But yeah, Fairy Charm ability. There's a lot less tools in format, but some of the tools are incredibly dangerous. You have Spell Tag, you have Fairy Charms, and without Field Blower, it's hard to remove the tools. So I am going to talk about Lysander Labs as well as being probably our best tool removing option just in the game. It doesn't remove tools per se, but it does do something which is pretty nice, and that is give you the ability to prevent tools from coming into effect. It's got a similar sense to Field Blower in the sense, like, think about like Spell Tag, right? Say that you don't want Spell Tag to activate that turn, but you still need to take a knockout. You can slap down the Lysander Labs, and sure, the Spell Tag isn't going to get removed, but you can now safely knock out the Pokemon without actually worrying about dealing with the Spell Tag effect. Same thing goes for Fairy Lab. Same thing goes with that big bomb card I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. But so those are some interesting cards. Other cards we have as well, which I'm not going to talk about too much, are Z Crystals, U-Turn Board, which is the same as the skateboard. Those are giving you more switching options, but those are other tools as well. But they're not really as like, what's the word? I need to talk about Team Rockets as well. There's a lot of cards I have to talk about. I guess we'll talk about that more as we go along in the video. which I probably should have prepared, but I didn't. I thought I had all the list here, but I did not have all the list here. What is this set called? I'm just gonna go to Bulbapedia, honestly. So Lysander Labs, I think, is going to be a staple for any deck that fears spell tags, that fears what's it called? Fairy charms, decks that are super duper important for that kind of stuff. So that's why I think Lysander Labs is definitely going to be a staple for a lot of decks out there. Double check anything else I am missing. Let's see. So I want to make sure I have a very thorough discussion for you guys, and I've been having all these pages open on my phone for many days just in case there's cards I'm forgetting. Let's see. This is called GGN. Let me pull up GGN as well. I need to just do this on PokeBeach, to be honest. And I'll probably just like pull it up on screen as we go on. I think that's what I'll do, to be honest. We'll see as we go on. But let's go ahead and talk about the current cards we have in format that could help you, that I think are going to be really, really important post-rotation. So let's go ahead and do that first. So first things first, the Dene. The Dene is not only a great card in the sense that it is discard draw 6, which is incredibly powerful for not only deck thinning, but really extending your combos, because we don't lose a lot of draw. I don't think we lose any draw supporters during post rotation. So you still have access to all your draw. The biggest thing that we're losing is a lot of thinning because we no longer have Ultra Ball, and a lot of search because we no longer have Ultra Ball. So we don't lose too much in that sense, but the Dene does really help you get your combos going. And because we have a lot of gusting gone, because Guzma's gone, Escape Rope is gone, the Dene is also Counter Catcher is gone as well. We only have Custom Catcher now, but the Dene is pretty safe on your bench because as far as I'm aware, because we don't have any ability gusting. I guess we do have ability gusting in Ninetales, which I'll go ahead and pull up real quick for you guys. That's fire decks only, but it's also an ability, which means fire decks won't be able to play greens. So decks that can't really afford to play greens can't really play Ninetales. And can't really afford to not play greens. Can't play Ninetales, but they do have the ability. We do keep a lot of our fire cards outside of outside of Kiawe. So Ninetales, it has its own gusting, so fire is going to continue to be a threat for sure, which I guess I should put up on the screen. But because you're safe on the bench, you can spam your Denes as much as you like for the most part. Because like I said, a lot of decks will not be playing gusting at all, but most decks that do will only be playing 4 custom catchers, which means they can only gust at most 2 times a game. So as long as you don't see a Ninetales, your Denes are pretty safe on the bench. Other cards that are pretty good, Mischievous and Mismagius. I've never been a fan. I'm going to say this right now because I'm going to personally say I've never been a fan of Mismagius. I think Mismagius is a cool card. I still play it. Obviously, I played in Gardevoir, and Gardevoir Sylveon is one of my favorite decks, especially post-rotation. I think that deck's going to be bonkers post-rotation. But I'm not a big fan of the idea of knocking yourself out. It works in tag team decks, but it doesn't work in every deck. So Mismagius is cool because we still have all the search options we need for Mismagius. We still have Mysterious Treasure, and we still have Duskstone. So this card doesn't really lose as much consistency. Sure, the lack of Nest Ball and Ultra Ball just gives you an overall general lack of consistency in Pokemon. So we're not going to be able to search for Pokemon every turn like we've been able to for the most part. But having access to Treasure and having access to Duskstone still gives you an option. Like, you can still play greens to get the stuff out and whatnot. So it's not impossible to find out the Mismagius. So if you're looking to draw more cards, if you're looking to get some combos going with Beast Ring, with Counter Gain, and with Reset Stamp, which is the most important one, then Mismagius will still be a very strong card for you. So don't forget to get your Mismagius. Acrobike's huge, super duper huge. Turbo decks are now more alive than ever. It's a little bit kind of weird to say that since we are losing a bunch of search, but there's a lot of decks out there that, like, first let's talk about dark decks. I've been playing this really, really powerful Greninja Zoroark Dark box kind of deck. It's like a tag team dark box because we keep Noggin Adele and we have Cherish Ball to search our tag teams, and now we have access to Acro Bike, Viridian Forest, Judge Whistle. There's a lot of cards that can help you thin your deck and just go ham into searching every turn. So I think Acro Bike is a must-of in so many decks that can afford to fit it in. Custom Catcher has actually a really cool card for post rotation. I mean, like I said, it's no Guzma, so whenever we play these cards, they're more forced than they ever were. But like, these cards are not horrible options either. Custom Catcher, if you guys don't know, when you play 2 of them, you get to gust up a Pokemon. So pull a Pokemon up from the bench, make it active, and then you can take a knockout on it, or you can stall with it, whatever you gotta do. But it also has the added effect of being able to draw until you have 3 cards into your hand, if you only play 1. And the reason why that's good is because Reset Stamp is a thing. If you guys don't know what Reset Stamp is, I guess I might as well talk about that now, right? Because I've been talking about it so much. Reset Stamp here, I don't have the text here, but it essentially is a one-sided N. Your opponent shuffles their hand into their deck and draws equal to the amount of prizes they have. So if you're winning the game and you're just going la-di-da-di-da and just knocking out your opponents every turn, and all of a sudden you're down to 1 prize, and you're just like, all right, cool, all I gotta do is pull off the combo and I win the game, and your opponent Reset Stamps you, you're down to 1 card hand. If your opponent plays things like Gardevoir, Sylveon's Tag Team's GX attack, which I forget what that attack is called actually. Let me double check here. The attack that lets your opponent shuffle, that forces your opponent to shuffle all their cards. Gardevoir, there we go. That forces your opponent to shuffle their entire hand back into their deck with no draw. And if you were to top deck a Custom Catcher, that's a +3 draw right there. So a Custom Catcher lets you get out of these awkward situations that are going to be created through cards like Reset Stamp, through some GX attacks, and just through overall just clumping in general, which you will see some clumping post rotation, I can promise you, especially if you're not playing decks that are just like made for post rotation, because this format's being very much pushed through specific types of decks. So Reset Stamp is important. It's, by the way, so important because you got to be able to disrupt your opponent. We lost Marshadow. All we have is Judge. Judge is your supporter for turn, which is never that great. Although I will say, I think Judge Whistle is going to be pretty huge post-rotation as well. It's just -4 into any deck. We don't have many cards. I don't think we have any cards that punish you for playing too many items. I will say we have access to Omastar, but there's not as many items that are so essential into deck building right now that I feel like Omastar is really good. We do have new stadiums like the Fossil Stadium that lets you pull up the stage 1s immediately. And Omastar, as far as I'm aware, is the only item lock. I think we're also getting this water type item lock, but it's not as good for sure. Omastar is not that great because no matter what, you're still not getting that turn 1 item lock. And excuse me. And item lock is kind of just meh, to be honest. It wasn't good right now, and we play a lot more items. And we play a lot more items, and I don't think it's going to be good post rotation either, because even though we can get out item lock easier, because we've had decent item lock in the past, right? We've had cards like Luxio and like cards that are, it's not exactly hard to get the item lock going post rotation, because it's kind of the same thing, right? You're not getting the turn on item lock, but it still exists. We also have cards like Noivern, like right now. Noivern's rotating obviously, but we've had ways to set up these item locks, and they just were never really good because we had such great supporters. And now we're actually not losing outside of like Guzma. We're not losing a lot of supporters here. We keep almost all of our draw support that matters. So because of that, I don't think item lock is going anywhere at all. So I don't think item lock is going to be doing anything at all. So that's my opinions. So saying that though, I think Judge Whistle is great, because if you want to play Judge, you can. I don't even think you need to play Judge when you're playing Judge Whistle though. I think you're just good to just draw a card, because that's essentially like saying, instead of playing with a 60 card deck, I'm playing with a 56 card deck. When you're playing with a 56 card deck, it's so much easier to draw into your combo pieces. So I think Judge Whistle is an amazing card for decks that just really need to find their combos, that really need to just draw through their deck and just want to get the maximum amount out of their deck, because they don't need to play so many cards. There's a lot of decks that actually don't have to play a bajillion cards. Like, they just have one very standard strategy, and their whole goal is to set up that strategy. For instance, I don't think a stage 2 decks are going to survive at all, but my favorite stage 2 deck, and the one that I think has legs and is really, really strong, is going to be Dragonite GX. We have so many good Dragonites coming out. We have one that lets you, this is not going to be a video talking about archetypes for the most part, but it's going to be talking about decks that why these cards are good, and what archetypes can be born from these decks. But Dragonite GX is a non-GX Pokemon, is a GX Pokemon, but a non-tag team Pokemon that can hit a really good tag team number in 270 and a really good non-GX number in 130. So it's a very powerful card, but it's still a stage 2. But more than just Judge Whistle, but you have access to Lance and stuff like that, and Volkner and whatnot. But Judge Whistle is a great card because, like, if all you're doing is focusing on setting up your Dragonite, that means your deck is only going to need about like a guaranteed 40-50 cards, right? And then you have like some open deck slots that are just going to be for consistency boosters, and that's where Judge Whistle comes into play. It's just a consistency booster. So I think Judge Whistle is an amazing card post rotation that you need to get here. I will say that a lot of my decks that I've been building for post rotation have not been able to play the 4 of Judge Whistle because they have a lot of other cards you have to put in, but Judge Whistle is great. I've been able to put in 4 ofs, even like 2 ofs or 3 ofs in some decks that just have that space that I don't need to put anything else in because it doesn't help with the strategy. All it does is kind of like add stuff to the deck that's unnecessary. So Judge Whistle, great card. I think it's amazing. As far as healing goes, we have access to Mixed Herb, and we also have access to Great Potion, which apparently I did not put up here. Let me put that up. I have the image, so I'm gonna put that up real quick. Image, great, browse. Let's see. Yep, Great Potion here. So there we go. Great Potion is a it's kind of pushing this whole tag team narrative. Tag teams aren't going anywhere, guys. They're still going to be great, but there are 1 or 2 good cards that can help you deal with some tag team decks. Dragonite is one of them, but Great Potion, what it does is it heals 50 damage from heals 50 HP from a tag team Pokemon. So obviously, if you play 4 of these, you can heal 200. Mixed Herb is your other healing option, similar to Custom Catcher, right? It's Custom Catcher. I gotta always remember that name, right? Oh yeah, Custom Catcher. It has 2 effects, right? And they're both pretty good, especially for post rotation. If you play 2, you heal 90 damage. Obviously, that's a lot of damage. You can heal 180 between 4 of these and 200 between 4 Great Potions. So obviously, you have some pretty decent options as far as healing go. There's no more Max Potion. There's no more Acerola. But a lot of this format is going to be focused either around OKOs or 2-hit KOs. So being able to heal a bunch of damage to prevent the 2-hit KO is going to be pretty useful. You are pretty safe in your bench as well, combined with Tag Switch, which is I'm gonna have to really pull that up, but I'll do that all like near the end of the video where I talk about the new cards that I did forget because I don't have them all up here, unfortunately. But between all that, between Tag Switch being able to switch 2 energies from one of your tag team Pokemon to another Pokemon, and between keeping cards like Switch, like we don't lose the card Switch, so we can still move around the bench and stuff like that, we should be able to like keep our damaged Pokemon on the bench, heal them throughout the game, and like just keep these high HP Pokemon from being OHKO just throughout the game. So I think these healing options, not nearly as bad as people thought, but more importantly, let's talk about the first effect. If you play this card, remove a special condition from your opponent's from your active Pokemon. There is going to be some incredibly powerful special conditions coming soon. We're going to have a lot of sleep, not in this set, but the set afterwards. And without access to Guzma, or actually, I think we're getting in this set too. I have to double check later. But without access to cards like Guzma, and our only way to remove status conditions is by switching around, it's gonna be really tough to deal with a lot of status conditions. We're getting Alolan Raichu tag team that just instantly paralyzes you. What are you gonna do about that? You can't play Max Pot. You're gonna be forced to play Switch, and you're taking a bunch of damage. I think Mixed Herb is amazing because it also removes your special conditions when you heal. By the way, it heals all your special conditions. But like just for being able to remove paralysis and punish attackers is really, really, really strong. Being able to remove sleep, being able to remove poison, like it's just I think Mixed Herb is gonna see a lot of good play post rotation for sure. I think it's a great card. Now let's talk about. We've talked about like. Let's see if there's anything else to talk about. Okay, let's talk about this. All right, Palpad, still great. You can search you can get your stadiums back, right? We've talked about Switch, still great. I'm gonna just kind of gloss over some of these cards. Pokegear, great way to get your supporters. Obviously, it's gonna be super important to play your Pokegears now. We don't have Lele anymore, and like I said, we don't have Thinning anymore. So I feel like Pokegear is gonna be a pure staple. There's gonna be so many decks that just have to play 4 Pokegear so they can guarantee their supporters. Some supporters that are really worth guaranteeing. Professor Elms. There's not gonna be many decks that want to play Elm. I think as of right now, all the decks that I've been testing for post rotation have not played Elm. But I still think Elm has some options. Like there's some cards out there that don't mind playing Elm for sure. Like Nidoqueen, I don't think Nidoqueen is going to be good post rotation, but Nidoqueen does have access to Elm and has access to Treasure to get your Nidoqueens faster. And then once you get your Nidoqueens going, you can start setting up the rest of your board. Of course, you need to get cards like Meganium and Rare Candies and stuff like that. But if you're forced to, if you want to play Rare Candy deck, you have access to Bills. I think Bills is a phenomenal card just in general. You can play this in a lot of different decks that need to find combo items like B-strings and stuff like that, Rare Candies, stuff like that. I think Bills is a great card. Definitely want to get yourself a couple Bills if you have them. But Pokegear is great for finding your Bills, great for finding your draw support like Cynthia, like Erica, like Lily. We also have access to green. Of course, we all know green decks. That's not really changing at all. So green, of course. And then Brock's Grit. Brock's Grit is a card that is one of those few cards that we're unfortunately forced to play. As far as like getting energies back, we do have cards like Energy Recycler. I think we're still keeping Energy something. Why is this not filtered? I thought I filtered this. Alright, these are all the cards that are staying post rotation. We are still keeping, what is that called? Like Energy Recycle System for sure. Are we not keeping Energy Reset? I'm sorry, are we not keeping energy? Okay, we are keeping Energy Recycle System. Yeah, we're not keeping Energy Reset. I thought we were. The one that shuffles 5 energies back into your deck. I thought we were keeping that, but I guess we're not. So our way to get energies back is Energy Recycle System. Not a bad card. It gives you versatility similar to Rescue Stretcher, but we don't have Rescue Stretcher anymore. In fact, we have no real way to recover Pokemon anymore. We have access to Lure Ball, but Lure Ball is exclusively for evolution pieces, which is kind of not great because you want to get basics a lot. So if you're looking for a deck that needs to just recover cards, you're forced to play cards like Brock. Brock is inherently slow. We have access to the Dene, so we can play some of these slower supporters and have an okay turn. But yeah, you're forced to play Brock. I know that there are decks where I'm forced to play Brock and just go, ugh, but whatever. It's still a good card. You can shuffle 6 in any combination of Pokemon and energies into your discard, from your discard pile back into your deck. It's also a good way to reload your deck in case you're going to deck out. I've been decking out a lot because of all my whistles and bikes and stuff like that. So I've been able to run through my deck for sure post rotation. So that's not a big deal. As far as supporters go, I ended up... Oh, well, there's also Tate and Liza. I'm only pulling Tate and Liza here is because Stall seems like it's a little bit scarier. So having access to a shuffle draw card that also lets you switch is not bad. Just because if your opponent does stall you with Custom Catcher and it's like a really, really heavy Pokemon that you don't want to spend 4 turns attaching energies to, then it's kind of problematic. Now, Stall does lose Skullgrunt and Plumeria for sure. So they lose a lot of energy disruption, but they still have Reset Stamp, right? So there's that. So just something to keep in mind. I put Tate and Liza there for that reason. Now let's talk about items. No, let's talk about stadiums, right? I talked about Lysander Labs already, pretty important. Now here's the reason why I'm really afraid of Whimsicott, right? Whimsicott, of course, does have the thing where you might be forced to play Elm and Whimsicott since you have no way to search out the Cottonies, and you can search out some other options with Elm as well. So that'll probably be, I haven't tested Whimsicott yet, but that'll probably be the first deck I play Elm in is Whimsicott. But Lysander Labs is to stop the charms on Whimsicott, and then Power Plant is to stop the ability. The problem is you can't play both at once. But Power Plant I think is going to be really good because of how scary Whimsicott is. There's not many ability-based GX Pokemon right now. You can always say that the Dene is a thing, so if you want to stop the Denes, Power Plant's pretty good. But I personally am afraid of Whimsicott, so that's why I play Power Plant. I have Viridian Forest out here because we have other ways to search energies. Excuse me. But the reason why I think I like Viridian Force is so good, is because it's similar. It's just simply a deck thinning card. You can discard cards from your hand, search out your energies, and just go ham. So deck thinning is something that is so undervalued as a part of Pokemon. It's ridiculous. If you don't thin your deck and you're reset stamped, right, you can draw into useless cards. If you don't thin your deck and use Cynthia, you can draw back into those cards that you didn't want to get again. Having access to Viridian Forest is just overall a decent supporter. If you have space in your deck and you're not playing any stadium, Viridian Forest is always a good option. Not to mention you want to have access to stadiums post rotation in general, just to stop things like Wonder Lab and Black Market, because Black Market is ridiculous post rotation if you don't bump it, and Wonder Lab is also ridiculous post rotation. Black Market, yeah, just Yeah, not being able to take prizes from Pokemon, from dark Pokemon with dark energies is ridiculous. There's some pretty decent dark Pokemon. We just talked about Greninja Zoroark earlier, with Weavile and Darkrai and all that stuff. That deck is wild. And what else? Oh yeah, Wonder Lab. Obviously, there's a lot of good stadiums, good fairies like Whimsicott and Gardevoir Sylveon post rotation. So having access to Wondrous Labyrinth is pretty. Being able to bump it is really strong. But we also have access to Power Plant and Lysander Lab, so you're not short on stadiums that are decent. Obviously, fire decks are going to have Heat Factory, which is just better for us. But you have your stadiums to play. You have your 3 options here that are just decent staples. If you're worried about spell tags, is an option. I think Weezing is done for though, because we lost DCE and we lost counter gain, whatever that card is called. So our only real way to attack is through counter gain, which means you're not using spell tag, or through 3CE, the triple energy, whatever it's called, and obviously that only works for 1 turn, and we have no way to recover those energies either. We have a Oranguru, I guess, but that's about it. Oranguru is inherently slow and you can't attach spell tag to it. So I think the only good spell tag post rotation is going to be like Malamar Tina tags, which I think is a great deck, by the way. I think it's an amazing deck, and it just gets better with all the new cards we have as well. So I mean, not even new cards, but the fact that we have access to there's a lot less cards in format to threaten, I should say. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's that as far as all that goes. We have our trainers here as well. I know I talked about this in a weird way, but I'm going to tell you guys right now, these cards right here are probably some of the, I need to remove this great potion. My bad, guys. Let me talk about one more tool before I forget, because this is kind of important and I feel like not many people are talking about it, and that is Great Bomb. I think Great Bomb is a pretty good card, in the sense that, like, if you're really struggling versus cards like decks like Reshizard versus a lot of different decks that are just like hitting you for too much damage, Great Bomb is an amazing, I keep saying great, I hate that. The Great Bomb is an amazing card for that. So if you guys don't know what Great Bomb does, it's a tool card, really similar to Bursting Balloon. For those of you that remember Bursting Balloon, you can attach it for a turn and then it gets discarded at the end of the turn. It's a tool, so it does get turned off with the likes of Lysander Labs, so that's something to keep in mind. But if you take 180 damage from an attacker, you can put 10 damage counters, or more, I should say, 180 damage or more on an attacker. You can put 10 damage counters on that Pokemon. Which is kind of huge in a lot of different matchups. Think Pikarom. If they're afraid of being, it's a deterrent from your opponent OHKOing you, is what I'm trying to say, which gives you a whole extra turn to set up, a whole extra turn to do damage, and they have to hit you, because if they don't hit you, then you can just hit them, and it's a problem in general. So they don't have to hit you. They have like access to healing, and they're just like, well, if I don't attack you and you attack me and you don't OHKO me, I can just heal with Great Potion and stuff like that. So it's not like they're forced to hit you, but it does give you extra turns, right? Great. Ooh, I have to cough. Excuse me, guys. Being able to put 10 damage counters on like a Reshizard or something means they only have 170 HP left. Combine that with cards like a Shrine of Punishment, and you hit them with an attacker, you only have to hit them for like 160, 150, whatever number you want to hit them for. So, that's a lot easier to hit than, say, 270. 270 is still ridiculous to hit post-rotation. So I think Great Bomb is an amazing card if you're looking to beat tag team decks a little bit more often and your decks are just having a hard time hitting those numbers. So something to consider before we move on to what I feel like is the most important part about post-rotation, and that is our Pokemon-based search. Mysterious Treasure is going to rule what makes decks good, in my opinion. This and Cherish Ball, which I'm going to go ahead and pull up right now. Cherish Ball, an immediate search for tag team decks. Like, honestly, Reshizard was looking kind of sketchy until we got Cherish Ball. Reshizard didn't really have a lot of search options. All you had for Reshizard was Fan Club, really, and that was it. We don't have Nest Ball and we don't have Ultra Ball anymore. So your game plan was to lead it by playing a quad build, or to play Fan Club. And when you're playing Fan Club, you're not playing Welder and you're not playing Green. And I feel like Green Zard is going to be the best way to play Zard post-rotation. I know a lot of people are talking about Jirachi. I'm actually a huge fan of playing Volcanion now post-rotation. I'll have a deck of that. Like, it's probably going to be one of our first live deck profiles is Green Zard. I think Volcanion is great because Volcanion kind of gives you a pseudo Welder effect where you can just go second and attach 3 energies from your deck to your Reshizard, which is phenomenal. And also, it's a non-GX attacker that hits 110, and you don't mind leading it because you're going to just set up your Pokemon on the back anyways. You have access to switch, tag switch, Great Potion. Like Reshizard still keeps a lot of amazing cards. So if you're a Reshizard player, don't worry, man, your deck stays good. But this is all important because we have access to Cherish Ball. You can green out Cherish Ball. Cherish Ball is your new Ultra Ball, quote unquote, for finding GX Pokemon. It's phenomenal. It just makes GX Pokemon good. Things like Naga Dark, like Greninja Zoroark, Darkrai Umbreon, Mega Sableye, Tyranitar, all of those become great cards. That deck becomes good because of Cherish Ball. The Dene is now searchable. You're not forced to play Ultramagnetic Radar anymore. You can play the Dene now, which is kind of important because if your hand is really small and you need to find Ultramagnetic Radar to find the Dene and you only have one other card in your hand, you just can't play the Dene that turn. So Cherish Ball, phenomenal for that. I don't think it's as useful, but for like Ultra Beasts, I guess if you're playing the new Dragon Naganadel card, then Cherish Ball is good because it helps you get all your Ultra Beasts. That on top of Ultra Space and Treasure just means that you can really ramp up Ultra Beasts into your play as quickly as possible. Gardevoir Sylveon, Pikarom. Although Pikarom did have that electromagnetic radar, it wasn't as huge of a threat, but it does stay important. Like let's take a look at all GX decks right now. Like anything that's a GX right now. Dragonite GX. Then I should probably do that here. Huh? Dragonite GX. What are some other important GXs? Tag team decks. Like look at this. This is ridiculous. Like there's so many decent tag teams that you can now search now. You can get your what's it called? Zero Aura. Like there's a lot of options. I don't really have to run through this, but you guys know what I mean. Like although evolutions kind of suck now because we lose that evolution EV, but it's fine. So that's gonna be good, and I think Pokecom is going to be good for those non-GX decks. Or just like, I think it's gonna be good in Malamar too, but like Malamar's its own story. I think this card's gonna be good in a lot of decks that just have a lot of Pokemon. Let's take like Fossil decks, for instance, non-GX decks, things like that. It also is interesting because now Pokecom kind of benefits good deck building in the sense that like, say that you need to play Jirachi. Say that you're forced to, like you really want to play Jirachi, right? Now you can play it as a 4-of. And you have to play all these other basic Pokemon. Like, I'm trying to think of a good example. Okay, here's a good example, right? Fossils. I was playing a Fossil deck the other day. And Fossils, you don't really need to play as many pieces anymore because you have access to that stadium. But the stadium lets you get the stage ones out immediately so you don't have to worry about evolving up your unidentified fossil. But you need to find, you really need to find those evolution pieces. And that's where things get kind of difficult, right? Like at first what I did was instead of playing like a 4/4 line of the evolution piece and the stage 1, as well as 4 identified fossils and 4 stadiums and a bunch of ways to find stadiums, I was actually only playing 3 of the basics because the basics were the easy part, right? Not the basics, the stage 1s, whatever, the Ammonites, the Kabutos, things like that. Those I only found 3 of because the whole idea of the deck was to find a stadium turn 1 so you can get those Pokemon out immediately. So that was the easy part. But then I started playing a 4 of the evolution pieces because I really needed to draw those evolution pieces because there was no way to search them. We literally have no way to search evolution non-GX Pokemon in the entire game right now, outside of Pokecom, right? So I need to draw into those cards, so I played a bunch of Shuffle Draw and I played a bunch of those combo pieces. Well, what ended up happening is I started playing Pokecom, and Pokecom was pretty good. It helped me find them, but I wasn't able to find them as much, even though I was playing like 16, 15 Pokemon in the deck. So then all I did was I started increasing my basic count of, or the stage 1 count of the Kabutos and the Ammonites and the Archons and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, my Pokemon became a lot better because I was playing like 3 or 4 extra Pokemon that were easy for me to Pokecom. So I feel like Pokecom is one of those cards that really like, that kind of have to like be built around, as in you have to play a bunch of Pokemon or else the card is not as good, but it also rewards playing a bunch of Pokemon. So it's super duper important to play Pokecom in like these kind of decks. If you're playing any evolution based deck, you must play Pokecom. That's like a no-brainer. You have to play Pokecom, because if you don't play Pokecom, you're not going to find your evolutions, because if you're not playing GX evolutions, you literally cannot search for that Pokemon. So Pokecom is your other way to search. And for instance, Malamar, right? Malamar does not have like, so my big thing, right, was that post rotation, I was kind of afraid of Malamar. Sure, we kept Treasure, but Malamar if you guys have played any Malamar, then you guys know that like the deck played 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Treasure, and like occasionally like 2 or 3 Nest Balls, right? Because you just wanted to get as many Pokemon as you could turn 1. But now there's the benefit of being able to play Pokecom, which you can play 4 Pokemon, and that can help you get out a bunch of Inkays early, so that you can evolve into Malamar. And then also the fact that there's a lot less gusting in format, so you're not as worried about your Malamars being knocked out. But yeah, Pokegum is just kind of like the replacement for the Ultra Ball Nest Balls. It's not a good one, but it's still a good option that you can put some Malamar in decks like that. So Pokecom, great card. Once again, get yourself 4 of those. And that's about it as far as trainers that are out right now, and the cards I was talking about as we were playing. I talked about Great Potion, Stamp, Bomb, Cherish Ball. I'm gonna go ahead and attempt to pull up some PokeBeach websites real quick. I already talked about all the trainers that I believe are in what's it called? Miracle Twins, which is one of our 3 sets. And this is going to be exclusively talking about trainers or Pokemon support, so I don't know too much about the other stuff. So let's go over the Sky Legends. Yeah, I did talk about all the Miracle Twin stuff. I guess I can pull it up just in case. Let's see. PokeBeach Miracle Twins set. Alright, I'll go ahead and just talk about all 3 sets real quick. Just to talk about the trainers. Where is my Chrome? Shout out to OBS being amazing. By the way, guys, I always use OBS. Where is it though? Here it is. Yeah, all right, perfect. All right, let's go ahead and talk about some of these cards real quick. I'm just gonna scroll straight to the bottom because that's what matters the most anyways. This is Miracle Twins. I believe I talked about all the trainers already. There's Great Potion. Stadium Navigator helps you search for stadiums. I don't like it because it's Timer Ball, but for stadiums. And also, it's kind of a really weirdly designed card, right? Because you only care about getting 1 stadium per turn, but it also gives you the option to search for 2 stadiums a turn, which I think is really strange. So it just I don't know. It feels like a poorly designed card, which is why I'm not too keen on it, but it's an option. I know I'm forced to play it in that fossil deck I was talking about earlier, but yeah. We talked about Giant Bomb. Misty's lets you search for 3 supporters. Pretty good if you're playing like a green based deck that plays Lieutenant Surge and you want to do some crazy supporter combos the following turn. I think Misty's is pretty cool for that. There is one trainer I do want to talk about, which is the Team Rocket one. Oh, Blue Strategy. I guess we can talk about why I don't like some stadiums. Blue Strategy, I don't like it. I mean, we still have access to Judge and we still have access to Reset Stamp, and Blue Strategy means you can draw until you have 8 into your hand when your turn is over, which is just immediately, just as soon as your turn is over, like what's the point, right? Like your opponent can punish you. It's not like it's hard to punish people. It's still kind of easy to punish people, so that's why I'm not a big fan of Blue Strategy. Channeler is a great card, but not right now. There's not many effects in the current format that make me think, oh, you need to play Channeler, that I think are consistent decks, right? Slumber is another stadium card that makes me really think that having access to Mixed Herb is really good, because obviously being able to remove the sleeping status condition, since you're going to be pretty much guaranteed sleeping every turn with the stadium up, is something worth keeping. I've talked about Research Lab many times, but this is the deck that lets you get out fossils immediately. There's a lot of decent fossils out there, so it's not a bad card. And then Weakness Guard removes weakness, whatever, not a big deal. So that's everything from Miracle Twin. So I talked about everything there. Let's talk about Sky Legends. I will say that with Sky Legends, oh, this is not the right thing. Sky Legends list, PokeBeach. There we go. I will say that I know a lot of people ask me this, Articuno Moltres Zapdos is not going to come out in our Sky Legends set. It's actually coming out post Worlds. So whenever I do my live deck stuff, because we don't actually know the full list yet and I'm just recording ahead of time, I'm not even going to bother playing that deck, even though I really think that deck is sick. I think that deck is super sick. But we'll do that after Worlds. So once it comes out and stuff like that, like we have these Z moves. I'm not really super interested in them, but they do exist and they are tools to Lysander Labs. U-turn board, another card. It's not a skateboard, so it doesn't really help your Jirachi, but it's not a bad card, I guess, if you're looking for more retreat options. Pokemaniac lets you search for up to 3 Pokemon with 4 retreat cost. That'll be good eventually, but I don't really see a lot of decks that rely on the 4 retreat cost Pokemon right now. But it is your way of searching your stage 2s, I guess, if you have some 4 retreat stage 2s. I just don't know any that are relevant right now. Maybe like Nidoqueen. I don't know, we'll see. Nidoqueen Meganium, I don't think they have 4 retreat cost. So, alright, Jesse and James is a deck. I think that's going to be really interesting. And another reason why I think Reset, not only is Reset Stamp going to be good, Custom Catcher, yeah, custom catcher and stuff are going to be good too. And that is Jesse and James. Each player has to discard 2 cards from their hand, and your opponent has to discard first. So they both discard 2, and obviously Jesse and James can build their deck around this card. There's cards like Leasing that make you discard even more. Arbok that make you discard even more. So this is something that you have to keep in mind when you're worried about deck building. You still have to play a high supporter count. You still have to play a lot of Pokegears. You still have to play your custom catchers if you're worried about Jesse and James. I think this card is very, very strong and something to definitely keep in mind. Anything else worth talking about? These are all reprints, so they don't count. Because as in we're not getting them. Let's talk about GGN just in case I forgot anything here. I don't think I forgot too much. But here's the tags which I was talking about. Move 2 energies from one of your tag team Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon. Very important. Recess Stamp, we were talking about. Black Belt. I don't know. We'll talk about that whenever we do deck profiles and stuff like that. Grimsley. Coach Trainer is an okay option. Letting you draw 4 if your active Pokemon is a tag team. Drawing 4 is never that bad. It's definitely, I don't think it's as powerful as, say, Lily, but there are a lot of decks out there that don't want to shuffle draw, and a lot of decks that just keep a bunch of cards in their hand. So like decks that can't play Erica or Lily are only relying on Cynthia. And if you don't want to shuffle draw, then Cynthia is not that great. So Coach Trainer becomes like your next best draw supporter. Being able to draw 4 is definitely not bad a lot of the time if you don't need to play greens or something like that. And that's kind of where the deck is going, right? Of course, Reset Stamp is still a card, but it's definitely a nice option. And then Big Oven is just better Viridian Force for fire decks. Everything else is just reprints once again. So yeah, I think I covered everything here. I don't know if there's anything I'm forgetting, but definitely, I don't know, you guys let me know in the comments down below. I can make a list if you guys want to see another video like this. I can talk about the decks that I think are going to be really strong post rotation before testing, and then I could do one that is after testing, right? I've done a little bit of testing here and there, but if you guys really want to see that video, tell me that right away, because if you tell me that right away, I can do it. I can do the video like tomorrow, and we can do a before and after testing video and just go from there. So yeah, I like these freeform discussions. I just like talking about Pokemon. I think it's one of my favorite things in the world, so what can I say? Let me know in the comments down below if you like this video. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, share all the good jazz. Especially drop a like if you have not already, because it is pretty important for supporting this kind of content, because this kind of content is not stuff I do very often. So having the ability to make this content is pretty cool if you guys like it. I want to shout out the Patreons real quick. Ben Adel, I Like Pokemon Cards, Kayan Oldale, Oswaldo Ojolo, Patrick Ojola, Oswaldo Ojola, Pat, of course, my boy, and Snooky McBam. Shout outs to you guys. Shout outs to all the support out there, and I'll see you guys next time. And of course, one more thing, we got shout outs to sponsors. Shout outs to Guardian Gaming. Use code ORABOMB for 10% off. And also they give us all the codes and stuff, which you have a chance to win if you answered some of the questions that I asked throughout the video, right? And yeah, I think that's it. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, share all the good jazz. And I love saying that for some reason. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.